If you edit videos in Camtasia, you really should learn some of the shortcuts I'm about to show you. Once you get used to them, your video editing will be so much faster. Let's get into it. I'm demonstrating on a Mac, and the shortcuts between PC and Mac sometimes are different, but I'm going to show you both, and I'm going to include them on the screen, the Mac version and the PC version of all these shortcuts. Having said that, let's start with some basic ones. Now, the very basic one, the one I use all the time, is using the spacebar to play or pause the playhead. So simply put the playhead wherever you want, spacebar, spacebar, it plays and it pauses. Okay, showing you the keyboard shortcut, whichever you need. So that one, my thumb is typically on the spacebar all the time, and I'm always using that. Some other basic ones are the copy and paste and cut commands. So you may be familiar with Control-C, Control-V for copy and paste. That's the same here, and they work on both the timeline as well as the canvas. So you highlight an object, Control-C to copy, or Command-C on a Mac, and then Control-V or Command-V to paste. And it'll paste the object at the location wherever you have the playhead. Okay, so if I had the playhead over here, Control-V to paste, it would paste it right there. In addition, we could use the Control-X command to cut, and then Control-V to paste it back. Now, if you want to undo anything, that's Control or Command-Z. So Control-Z will undo what I just did, and you can go back several levels like that. If you want to redo something, it's Control-Shift-Z. Another commonly used one is the duplicate one. So you can highlight something and go Control or Command-D. That will duplicate what you had highlighted at the same location, so the same place in the timeline. So for example, if I want to duplicate this, I'll go Control-D, and there it is. If I want to duplicate both copies of it, highlight them both, Control-D, and it shifted everything up and it created two more copies. Okay, so let's just undo those. Control-Z, Z, Z, Z. Next one is fairly simple. You can simply highlight anything and then press the delete key and it will be deleted. Control-Z to undo. You can also do the same thing on the canvas. Highlight it and delete it with the delete key. Now let's get into some properties. So let's say we want to copy the properties of this shape. And by properties, I mean if you go over here into the properties window, let's just make some modification to these properties. Let's rotate it on the Z-axis or the Z-axis, and also on the Y-axis here. And then the position, obviously the position can be changed like this. So those are the properties that I've modified. Let's say we wanted to copy the properties of this shape over to this shape. Okay, you can't simply go Control-C and then highlight this and Control-V. That'll just create another copy of that object. So let's Control-Z to undo that. Okay, what you would do, what I always used to do, is I would right-click here and then click on Copy Properties. Not just copy like up here, but Copy Properties. And then you could paste properties. But the shortcut is holding the Shift key while you go Control-C. So let's highlight this, Control-Shift-C, copies it. And now let's highlight this one, Control-Shift-V. That pastes the properties. So we can move this out of the way just to see that the properties were pasted over. So the properties included the position. That's why the position ended up being in the same location as the purple one. So let's undo these again. Control-Z, Z, Z, or Z. Next, I want to demonstrate copying effects. So effects are different than properties. Effects are things that you would find in the Visual Effects tab. So for instance, we could drag a border down to this shape like this. And if you want to see the border, we'll have to change the color from white to, let's go with black, say, and then change the thickness. So we've given that a border. Something else, we could also, let's say, add a drop shadow, drag that over here. If you want to see it more easily, you can change the offset. Okay, so now we've got some effects applied to this object. And if you want to copy the effects, you go down in the timeline and you press this up arrow here, you highlight the effects, so border. If I only wanted to copy the border, I would highlight it like this and then go Control-C, okay? And then I would highlight this one here, Control-V, that will paste that effect, okay? Let's undo that, Control-Z, and let's come back here. Now, if we wanted to copy both of these effects, the border and the drop shadow, select one of them, hold down Shift and select the other, then go Control C to copy. Now highlight this shape, Control V. That pasted both effects, the border and the drop shadow. Okay, so just remember you have to highlight the effects, and then you can copy the effects from one clip to another the same way as you would copy actual clips from one to the other with Control or Command C and V. Another thing I want to show you, another shortcut, if you wanted to add an animation, say a custom animation, all you would normally do is go up here to animations and then click and drag this custom animation down. You don't even really have to do that. I still typically do that, but what would be quicker is just highlighting where you want the animation to go, highlight the clip or object or callout, and just go Shift A, and that will add an animation just like this. Okay? You can go Control Z to undo that move, and then Control Z again to undo the addition of the animation. Next thing I want to show you is grouping. So the typical way to group two objects together would be to simply highlight them both like this, and then you could right click and click on group right here. If you want to save yourself a couple keystrokes, highlight them both like this and go Control G or Command G on a Mac. If you want to undo that, then you would go Control U to undo the grouping. Okay, so you can group more than two. You can group all these four, say, if we want to. Control G groups them all together, move them around if you want, and then Control U to ungroup. Next up is the split command. So put the playhead wherever you want to make a split. Let's say you want to split this in two, or actually it makes more sense. Let's say we're editing a video like this, and we want to split it right in here. You would highlight it and just click the letter S on a PC. That splits the clip into two. On a Mac, this is one that is different. Instead of S, it's Command T on a Mac. Now let's go ahead and undo that. We'll just simply Control Z to back it up. Control Z, there we go. Now I should point out that all of these shortcuts that we're talking about here, you can change them. If you don't like them, if you're used to another program and then you're coming over to Camtasia and there's some shortcuts you got used to and you want to replicate them in Camtasia, you can modify any of these. And the way you do that is so again, I'm on a Mac. So on a Mac, you would go up to Camtasia 2023 here, and then you would click on Settings. On a PC, you would go up to Edit and then Preferences, and that would bring up the same thing. So let me just click on this, Settings, and here is our so oftentimes you will pop up, this window will pop up in the General tab. You want to go over to the Shortcuts tab, and then in here are where all of the shortcuts are listed. So in this video, I'm only going to show you the basic ones that I use, my favorite ones, but there's a lot more that you could find in here, and this is where you'd go to change them. So for instance, the split key, that was timeline editing. So you would come down to timeline editing here and then look for it right here, split selected media. You can see that it's set to S, okay? That's because I'm on a Mac and Command T is what it's normally set to. I changed it to S because I got used to using Camtasia on a PC first, and I just got so used to using S that I changed it to S. But if you wanted to change it back or change any other ones, you would just highlight it here, click this X here to delete it, and then if you want to add a shortcut, click here, and then just type it. So Command T, there. Now I've reset this, so split selected media for me now is Command T, and it's just that easy. I'm going to change it back because I'm used to using S, so we'll just go here and I'll type S, and now it's set. So you can close out of here. Now another way to bring up the shortcut window, instead of going up to Camtasia or Edit and Preferences in Windows, Camtasia and Settings, instead of doing all that, all you have to do is go Control or Command and comma, and that brings up the same window. So remember that as a shortcut. If you plan on going in here often, Control or Command comma brings it up, and if you wanted to close it, just X out of it here. Another one you may find useful is to export a frame. So if you want to go anywhere in your project, let's say I want to find a frame here. Let's say I want to export this. Okay, so the video with the square shape on top. All you have to do is press Control F or Command F on a Mac like this, and that will bring up your save window, and you can save that as a PNG image file. Okay, now a more common use for generating a screenshot, if you will, is not necessarily to export it out of Camtasia, but let's say you wanted to freeze the frame right here. Let's say we wanted to freeze the frame at this point here. Okay, one way you could do that is you would highlight the clip, press your S key or Command T on a Mac, move this out of the way. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can either hold down the Option key, okay, or so I'm on a Mac, so it's Option on a Mac, or the Alt key on a PC, and then move your mouse over the end of it. You'll see this little icon, the square with the arrow. Click and drag like that, okay? And now you'll notice the frame has frozen, and it freezes right to the end here and then picks up, okay? Let's Control Z that back. The other way around works as well. You can hold down the Alt or Option key and drag back to the left like this. Okay, it achieves the same thing. Okay, let me back up here, right back to here. Now another way to generate a freeze frame, let's say I wanted to take a frame of this shot here and put it to or somewhere else in the video. Maybe I want this to be a shot as part of my intro in the video. A quicker way to take a screenshot of this and not have it export, but have it right within Camtasia, is just clicking this little icon over here. It looks like a camera. Add exported frame. So you click this, and then it just puts a frame right here. See that? This is now an image, and I can put that wherever I want, and the image is just a still shot of what it was, where the playhead was. Okay, I'm going to delete that right now. Next, I want to go through some navigation shortcuts. So one that I use all the time is, let's say I wanted to close the gaps. I'm making some cuts here. Let's say I made a cut here, and then this was down here. Let's say I cut out a section of video here, and I want to close the gap. One way you can do that is if you double click this one here and then click away, right? Hold down Shift, grab the playhead, and drag it back. It'll join it back up again. Okay, so that may be useful if, for example, you want to cut out a section. Let's say I wanted to cut out this section here. I used the S key to split that. Now I'm going to use the Delete key to delete that section. I'll hold Shift down, grab the playhead, drag it back. That's how you do that. Let's just back this up now, back to where I was. Other shortcuts you may want to use with the playhead, if you want to go back to the very beginning, hold down Control and hit Enter on a Mac, or Control Shift Enter takes you to the end. Okay, Control Enter to the beginning, Control Shift Enter to the end. Now on a PC, that's Control Home and Control End. Okay, I can't demonstrate that because I'm on a Mac. And then finally for navigation, if you want to move one frame at a time without having to zoom in, you can do that easily with the comma and period, okay? Comma moves, each time you press the comma, it moves it one frame to the left. Every time you press the period, it's one frame to the right. Okay, and I can demonstrate that a little easier if I zoom in. Let's zoom way in here, and then I'll press period, one frame at a time, and you can see the frames counting up right here. There's a number of frames, 5, 6, 7, or hit the comma to back it up. Now let me zoom out so we can see everything, and there's a shortcut to do that as well, Control Shift 0. Now we can see the whole thing. Another way to do that would be if we're zoomed out like this and we want to see everything fit on the screen, everything in the timeline, is just hitting this this magnifying glass here. Does the same thing as Control Shift 0. Now let's say we have a number of things in different tracks, and let's say, let's just rearrange these like this. Let's say I have all these things all on the one track, and let's say I just want to see what's on this track here. I could hit the eyeball icon in all these other ones, right, to hide them, and now I'm only seeing this one track. Okay, let's just make these visible again. Another way to quickly do that is you hold down the Alt key or Option key on a Mac, Alt on a Windows or Option on a Mac, and click the eyeball of the track you want to see solo, and it hides all the other ones automatically. To reverse that, you do the same thing, hold down the Option or Alt key and click that eyeball again, and it unhides all the other tracks. Sticking with the tracks for a moment, if you want to modify the height of these tracks, you can do that with your mouse by dragging this icon up and down like this, but sometimes that's difficult to click exactly, or you have to, it's a very small icon. There's a keyboard shortcut to do that too. And what that is you hold down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on Windows and use the minus and equals keys while you're holding Alt. Minus makes it smaller, equals makes it larger. Okay? If you want to zoom in and out on the timeline with keyboard shortcuts, you would hold Control Shift and then the minus or the equals sign. Okay? And again, if you want it to snap back and fill to the whole screen, it's Control Shift and 0. Just like that. Let me just minus a couple times to bring it back on the screen. Now, something else you may end up having to do is moving these tracks around. So let's say I want this orange shape above the video shape. I could move everything up like this, right? And then drag the video down and then drag these two down. Okay, but that's a lot of clicks. So another way I could do that, let me just back up here, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Another very quick way to do that is if I want this, what's on this track to be below here, just click and drag the track down like that. And you can switch them just as easy as that. And here's one that might come in handy on the canvas. Let's say you've zoomed in and out, you've panned around like this, right? And let's say you zoomed in on a corner, and then when you zoom out, I'm using the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Let's say you want to center everything, and it's kind of a pain. You can't do it like that. Let's Control Z. See, Control Z for undo works on the canvas as well. If we want to snap our canvas back to the center of the screen, what you do is you hit Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac and the letter C. C for center, and it recenters it. Another shortcut for the timeline is if you want to move the playhead to the beginning or the end of an object, okay? So all you would do is you would hold down Control and then use the comma or the period. So comma, okay, see it's going to the beginning of the previous object, or period goes the other way. Just snaps to the end of the next available object. Now I've got a couple of audio shortcuts for you. I've got this track down here. We have some audio in the track. If you want to silence that audio, let's say you've recorded the audio externally and you've processed it and you've brought it back into your project and you want to silence the audio on a track that's in your project, what I used to do is I would right click here and then go up and locate silence audio, and I would click it right there. Okay? And to undo that, you would right click and you can restore the audio, or Control Z would have undid that as well. But instead of having to do that, all you have to do is hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, and then S for silence or R for restore. Okay? S and R, all while holding down the Option or Alt key. Now, something else you might want to do with the audio, let's say you wanted to modify the volume and you wanted to insert an audio point. So let's right click here and we'll click on Edit Audio. So we bring up our audio editing window. Let's say we wanted to lower the volume right here. Well, you could right click with your mouse and select Add Audio Point. That does it. And then you would move the playhead, right click again, Add Audio Point, and there's your two audio points, and you can now vary the volume. Okay? Let's Control Z to undo that 1, 2, 3 times. So a way you can do that with a keyboard shortcut is you would press Control Alt on a PC or Command Option on a Mac, and then A. And that adds an audio point. And then I can move my playhead and press it again to add another one. And then I would just vary the volume however I want to. Couple more in the canvas here. Let's select an object here. As you notice, I do not have canvas snapping on. You can turn it on by going up to View, Enable Canvas Snapping here. Now when I'm dragging something, see it's going to snap either to the center of the screen or the center of another object, or the bottom of another object, or to the corner of my canvas. That's because canvas snapping is on. If I want to toggle it on or off, because there's quite often that I have to toggle it on, to move it ever so slightly, and I don't want it to snap to an edge. If I want to toggle it off, I would hold Control or Command on a Mac, and then the semicolon key. And then that toggled it off. See, now it's off. And I can press it again, Command, semicolon, and now it's back on. And in a similar way, we can do that down in the timeline. You can see I currently have timeline snapping on. You can tell by the little yellow lines that show up. If I go Control Shift semicolon, that toggles the snapping on and off on the timeline. So Control Shift semicolon, it's back on. And now up here in the canvas, it's just Control semicolon to turn that off. Another thing with the canvas, if I want to move this object, let's say I want to move this object and I want to move it perfectly horizontally or perfectly vertically. The way I do that, instead of just clicking and dragging like this, you might introduce some vertical movement when I'm trying to drag that. Just hold the Shift key down. It's important to know whether you're going to be moving horizontally or vertically before you start, because your first motion is what you're going to be limited to. So hold down Shift. If I start moving horizontally, that's all I can do. Even if I'm going up and down with the mouse, right, it's sticking to horizontally. Okay? Now if I start over, I took my finger off Shift. If I press Shift again and my first motion is up or down, now I'm forced to be going up or down. And now one last thing, if we want to resize this object, let's say I want to resize this square and I want to maintain the aspect ratio. To do that, hold down Shift, grab a point, and drag. Okay? Doesn't matter where I go, the aspect ratio will remain the same. If I also want the center of it to remain in the same place as it is now, you would hold down Control and Shift. Okay, then grab a corner, and then as you're moving it back and forth, you're maintaining the aspect ratio and keeping the center. Do you want more tips like this? Let me know in the comments below. Or come join me on Tuesdays in my live stream. I live stream every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern here on YouTube, sharing my screen and doing how-to tutorials. I show you how I make my videos and I answer any questions you have live. So if you're looking to level up your videos, join me on Tuesdays. I'm Rob and I'll see you in the next video or in a live stream. I'll see you soon.